In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 22, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
So, this is a listener-suggested theme.
It sure is.
And we have to thank Maggie for coming up with this great genre of horror.
Maggie's the best.
Yes. Albeit outside my comfort zone.
Outside mine as well. But we did do a little research on what actually horror means
Yes.
and entails, right? You
Yeah,
did that.
yeah, I did. And according to a lot of different definitions, it's basically speculative fiction, which is intended to frighten, scare, disgust, or startle its readers with feelings of horror and terror.
Well,
But it doesn't say that that has to be done by blood, guts, and gore.
because I think both you and I, when we got this suggested theme, we're like, oh, like gory stuff, like slasher movies, not
No.
our thing. But then Maggie clarified.
Yes,
didn't
she
she
did. She said that she really enjoyed the book The Stand, which you have also recommended on this podcast
Yes.
by Stephen King. So with that in mind,
Yes.
we took a little bit of a psychological horrifying turn.
We sure did. And man, we got some good ones.
We did. We
Yeah.
got some really good ones.
Some real scary things
yes.
in various ways.
Yes, very
Yeah.
much.
Well, so thinking of scary stories, thinking of horror by that definition, what was the first book or movie that really scared you?
Amityville Horror.
Oh!
Yeah, actually, I should say it too, because I actually watched
Okay.
those in the same weekend.
Oh, what were you doing?
Yeah, I was having a sleepover with a very good friend of mine.
Oh.
I was way too young. She was way too ballsy.
Oh.
And it went bad for me. I still can't even see a clown without basically peeing myself. I can't.
I think that's also the normal reaction to clowns,
it
though.
should be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it should be. Yeah.
It definitely should be. And then the Amityville Horror, it was just, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you the plot because I didn't watch so much of it.
Yeah.
I just know that I was petrified. I mean, scared.
How old were you, would you say?
I mean, it was in elementary school, so it had to be like 4th or 5th grade.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's a little too much.
Way too much.
How'd the
Way
other
too
girl
much.
react? Did she get scared?
She seemed okay with it, but she was like a little more edgy than I was. Like in general, she was more okay with everything.
Okay.
So
was she acting like she was more okay, do you think? And
probably.
She was also petrified? Okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Yeah. But we were also pretty vulnerable with each other. So I feel like she would have said, like, I was like, this is terrifying. I don't want to watch this anymore. So it's possible that she was just like, whatever, this is totally cool. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was trying to think of the first thing that really scared me. And there were things that were really dark and creepy, like Terminator 2, that was real. Yeah. But I loved it at the same time. But the first movie that I still can't think of without just cringing absolutely was in, like, when I was a teenager, and it was Event Horizon. Did you ever see that movie?
I've never even heard of it.
I think it was Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne. There was one scene where they were like showing what happened in this weird time loop, and someone's eating someone's arm, and there's all there was some real graphic like image hits of these terrible like self-cannibalization thing. I had to stop it, I think, and then I've been haunted ever since by it. So I can't ever watch it again. It probably wasn't that bad, but something about that
terrible.
moment. Yeah.
I don't care. Yeah. I'll never watch it. A, your face when you were presenting the idea, very cringy.
Yeah.
Second of all, I know. I'm not watching somebody eat their own arm.
Exactly.
Or someone else's arm.
Right.
It doesn't make it better either way.
Doesn't make a difference. No. Eating an arm is not a great, no.
Did you ever see the movie Tremors?
A long time ago.
With Reba
Kevin
McEntire.
Bacon. Reba McEntire was in it.
I remember, like, that was another girlfriend of mine's, like, one of her favorite movies, and we watched it way too much, luckily to the point where it was just humorous.
Yeah.
Like, it lost all ability to be scary, because you're like, Reba McEntire and this thing in the ground.
My goodness.
I can't take any of this seriously.
You know what I just remembered was another one that was a little earlier, and that was arachnophobia. Yeah.
Nope. I never saw
And
it. For
did
that
I already
reason.
tell this story where they were showing it to us in shop class in junior high?
Yes, you mentioned this.
I don't understand how that was a good idea. Maybe the teacher was just like, F this. I'm going to take a break this period, and I'm going to show you kids arachnophobia.
I wonder, or maybe they were just really trying to encourage you about the importance of knowing your way around a power tool, because if you're ever up against a giant spider that's going to breed other spiders.
There was like a moment where the shower scene where there's spiders. Yeah.
I can't.
Nope.
I can't do it.
Can't do it either.
I can't do it.
Oh, God.
I
okay.
hate spiders so much.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
When was a time that you can remember being really, really scared?
Okay. So
summer camp.
Definitely. That's a thing for sure. This was when I first lived in Des Moines, and there was like a pounding. I was a small house kind of over by Beaverdale, and there was like a pounding on my door in the middle of the night. And I am, number one, straight out of sleep, I'm not always the best. So I kind of started to open the door without thinking about it. And then I realized, like, wait a minute. And this person started to shove their way in, the door. And I was pushing against it, and his foot was in there. And he kept yelling for someone that didn't live in our house. Like, he was yelling a name. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like pushing, and I losing my mind. Finally got the door shut and locked, but he was still like, he was throwing himself into the front door trying to get in.
Oh my God.
Called 911. And this is saying nothing against 911 operators, because I imagine they have a very thick skin and they have to deal with crazy.
I'm sure they do.
But she didn't quite like put me on hold or mute, so I could hear her talking to a friend while she was dispatching about going to JCPenney. And I was like, this is not a time for cardigan sweaters. Get off the phone. I was losing it. I was losing my mind. I was like, I'm about to die. This is every horror movie I've ever seen.
That feels like a real life horror movie.
It was awful.
When you're being, someone is coming into your house and they're talking about sweaters at JCPenney. Wow.
And the police eventually did come. They caught him not very far from our house.
Okay.
And he thought that it was some friend, that we were housing some friend of his that owed him money. They think he was probably like on something, and had confused the houses, but he was sure that person was in there. Yeah. And then I remember that they offered me to go to like a VORP, they call it, like a victim session, where you could like sit across from him and tell him how it felt. And I was like, no, I'm good.
No,
I
don't want you to ever remember my face. No.
You didn't see it, as far as I know.
Oh
so
my God.
What? No, it was terrifying.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that'd be more terrifying than seeing someone eat their own arm. So I think you win in this battle. I mean, yeah.
But if in real life someone eating their arm,
that'd be real bad.
That's gonna beat out someone throwing themselves into the front door.
I don't know. Someone trying to get into your house, that's scary.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And I don't know what I was thinking when I cracked the door.
You were probably half asleep and just like, it's fine.
Yeah, because I was assuming it was like someone we knew or something.
Yeah.
You just never expect that. And
God.
yeah. Luckily, I had enough, got his foot in there enough, but yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we've established how we feel about scary stories. We like them to some extent.
We do.
But, you cross a line.
Yes.
Oh,
we
boy.
both prefer a psychological thriller.
Yes,
I
we
think.
do.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that's what a lot of our picks are around.
Yes.
So my first pick, fiction pick, is one we've both read. It's pretty new. It's called Bunny by Mona Watt. And like I said, very new. I think this came out in June. And the story is Samantha is a student in a prestigious graduate writing program on the East Coast. She's stuck in a writing workshop with 4 cutesy, rich, young women who call themselves bunnies. And they literally call themselves bunnies. Like, hey, bunny, I love you, bunny. Hey, bunny, blah, blah, blah.
Bunny.
It's terrible. It's gross. They wear dresses with like cutesy animals. They go to a restaurant with miniature foods, which killed me. That
detail was amazing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Samantha's very working class. She's very outsider. She's there on scholarship. She has one key friend that also thinks the bunnies are ridiculous. But suddenly, Samantha's invited to a smut salon with the 4 of them, which the name alone, I was all in on that.
Yeah.
We know as we're reading this, like, oh, Samantha, you got to stay away from this. You got it. It's kind of like you're watching the horror movie. Like, don't go into the hallway. Don't do this. Don't go to the smut salon with the bunnies.
No.
Nothing good's going to come out of it.
No.
And nothing good does come out of it.
No.
She starts getting pulled more and more into their world. And they're getting involved in another kind of workshop where they're up in their attic and they're creating some things, some creations, some monstrous creations, you might say. And shit gets real crazy. I can't really say much more plot-wise because it's just, there's so many things that are utterly shocking, hilarious, dark as all hell.
Oh my gosh. So brilliant, though.
So for our theme, as far as scary stories to tell in the dark, it's creepy, it's bloody, it's freaky as hell. There's, I think one element that I really like about some of these stories is dread. Like you feel this dread, something bad's happening. You can't quite get out of this, but you're along for the ride and you got to figure out what happens to these characters. But it's also hilarious. Like think Heathers, think The Craft. Think all those kind of movies.
Yes.
And I'm not just pulling those comparisons out of the air. In multiple interviews and other places, Mona has said these were her influences, that she loved these movies growing up, as well as like fairy tales and other horror. I had the good fortune of speaking to her about this, and I will actually include the link because after you read the book, it's really interesting to hear what she says about creating the book and what she was thinking about it. It's so fascinating because you're going to have lots of questions after you read. You're going to be thinking about this a lot. So reading that might help. Anyone who's ever been in a writing program or even just like a weekend conference with other writers, you're going to recognize some of the ridiculous language that's used, some of the passive-aggressive techniques that happen in these conferences, which is utterly brilliant. So it's this lovely, like, sort of other element of the scary story.
Which I think actually, separate from even the writing, that's kind of a universal thing. Like if you work in a field where you have to have group meetings a lot, or
brainstorming, and all that
kind of
crap.
passive aggressive, like that's a great idea. But that kind of
I see where you're coming from, but
I think I like what you were doing there, but maybe if we did it my way,
so good. But all of that kind of stuff. And I think you're right. It's the way it's written, even if you are not familiar with writing programs or anything like that, you're still going to get into this. You're going to really, really enjoy it.
Yes.
I can't recommend it enough. You recently read it as well. Anything else that you would say about it?
No, you nailed it. I mean, you're right. There's not a lot you can say about the plot without giving some amazing things away. But we've both read this, and we have talked about her previous book, 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, on this podcast before. So different. But I mean, both of them show her amazing writing ability. So much range.
Her way to tell a story. And both of those books have stuck with me in different ways, which is really interesting.
Yes. And I think that that's what I took away from this book in particular, is the way that she wove so many different universal ideas into such a unique story. You know, this idea of the fairy tale, which I think as you get older, you are drawn maybe more towards away from the Disney version and more towards like the Grimm's version
original
of
versions,
like,
yeah, the
what is
real
the
dark
actual
ones.
story here? Yeah. Because you maybe understand that the world is generally a darker place
Yes.
than we often portray. And so I feel like weaving that in with this universal idea of wanting to be accepted, with this idea of, you know, being outside of your comfort zone and what kind of feelings that creates. Oh my gosh.
And I loved too how she turned these very cutesy girls into these utterly horrifying, this sort of hive that you've got going. It's very remarkable.
It is. It's
and very
incredible.
scary.
Yes. But great.
And great.
Right. So worth
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So highly recommend.
Yes.
Put it on your list. Read it
it.
right now.
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 Do it.
What do you got, Erin?
Well, I have a book that we've also both read called My Sister, the Serial Killer.
yes.
By, prepare yourself, this is going to be a complete butcher job.
Okay.
Okay. I
Great.
tried to find on the internet how to say her
Sure,
name, and
sure.
it to no avail.
Let's hear it.
Because this is her debut novel. So, Oyen Can Brathwaite.
Sounded beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might want to follow the link on this one to get
yeah.
the spelling. But again, the name, My Sister, the Serial Killer. It was published in November of 2018. This is the author's first work, and it is a doozy. In this book, one sister is a talented nurse, and the other is a very talented murderer. So one of the lines I like from it is the sister that's a nurse speaking and says, she knows what's expected of her. Bleach, rubber gloves, nerves of steel, and a strong stomach. Oof. And that should set you off right there. The story takes place in Nigeria. And really, it's as much like a family history as it is a horror novel, complete with blood. You got some blood in this
lots of
one. You
blood.
got some gore.
Yes.
And I love it because it kind of mimics true crime in a way, in where you find yourself sort of rooting for the sister that is a murderer in a lot of ways, or you find yourself giving her a pass because of the backstories that you find out. So it puts you in that weird headspace that I think you can get in with true crime sometimes, where you're like, what's right? What's wrong?
Yes.
I don't know what's happening. They're dead bodies and I don't care. Like, you know.
Murder castles are great.
Yeah. So even the book itself is different. Like, it's a different size than the normal
Right.
of the books that are published. The chapters are short and organized differently. And it's set at a pace that allows you to really have the start and stop feeling with the story, which aids the whole plot line so perfectly, I think. It's a book that you really could pick up and read in one sitting because you kind of don't want to
Yes.
stop. You need to keep
Very
finding
quick.
out. And if you're like me and you're like, oh, one more chapter. Well, one more chapter is like, oh, a paragraph. And then, well, I'll read this chapter.
Sure.
Oh, I'll just
Yep.
read that one. Yeah.
Yep.
So it just keeps going.
See you, family.
And I think why I picked it particularly for this is because there's horror in so many aspects of this novel. Like I said, there are dead bodies, there is blood, there is that, but there's so much horror that doesn't have anything to do with murder and blood. You know, the horror of family, the horror of not fitting in with your family, the horror of being stuck somewhere in your circumstances, being born into a situation you can't control, horrors of not being able to be your true self, or the horrors of lost love, or, you know, lost opportunities. There's so many areas that draw on such deep emotion. And then combine that with this story of this serial killer is just like kind of mind blowing.
Yeah,
I loved
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really unique, different take on something that could have been very cliche. So
I like what you said about the family aspect too. That's what I liked, is that the sister keeps cleaning up her younger sister's messes, even though she knows like she almost wants her to be caught, but at the same time she's trying to protect her. There's this crazy dynamic there that's really interesting.
Very interesting. And so realistic, like the pull that you feel like, I mean, you can understand this want to protect someone you love, but also understand like this is not right. Like this is terrible on every level. So, and kind of it makes her complicit in a lot of the crimes, and really part of the reason she's getting away with it is because of her, because of her talent at being able to clean it up.
And I did like the sister, the serial killer. She just unrepentant in any way. Just keeps doing her thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, someone's pissing me off. Here we go.
This is what's happening.
This is what's happening. Let's cross this.
It is very interesting. Yeah. Great book. Quick read. Wonderful. I hope that we see a lot more from her because I really like her writing style so much. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, for other genre pick,
Yeah.
I chose a short story collection, but also primarily one of the stories in the collection. This is called Vampires in the Lemon Grove by Karen Russell from 2013. And Karen Russell is the author of Swamplandia, a novel. She's also the author of numerous short story collections. For a reason, she is killer at short stories.
She's amazing.
In the span
Amazing.
of like 20 pages, it's this incredible story.
Yes.
So they're all good. They're all sort of fusing the unreal with the surreal. There's some scary stuff. There's obviously like the title story, Vampires in Lemon Grove. It's hilarious because it puts vampires in just modern day. And it says, oh, by the way, all those things that, you think about vampires, they're not true. And this is what's true. Oh. But my favorite story that I wanted to talk about is called Reeling for the Empire. Story number 2 in the collection. And in this story, young women are being sold off from their families in Japan during the Industrial Revolution, so 1850s. They are promised work at a sophisticated city factory, reeling silk from silkworms. The world wants silk, and so these women are like, oh, this is going to be great, cosmopolitan life, yay. But really, they are given a tea that transforms them. They become creatures with silk in their bellies. And they must reel the silk from themselves using this machine. They are held captive by the recruitment agent, but also because now they're sort of monstrous. Like, they can't go out into the real world. So eventually they start embracing their inner monster, and some glorious things happen from there. So it's so cool, the idea of it, and it's stuck with me for years. The idea of turning into a literal monster, and then just having to deal with the new reality of your body, the reality of yourself, of what you're willing to go to, what you're willing to do because of this. She really amps up the dread and the horror of what's happening and creates a world that's kind of familiar today. In a lot of ways, I felt like it was sort of a sex trafficking story, but set in, the past in this other world. So very quick read, quick hit of really beautiful writing, some real terrible dread, and some scary stuff. And the rest of the collection, wonderful as well.
Yes.
So there you go.
She's very talented.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great at telling good stories.
So good. Yeah. Her short story collections are amazing. Yeah. Very good. And that's kind of what we wanted to do in this episode, too. We were pulling off the Stephen King, who himself has tremendous amounts of short story collections that are amazing that you could have picked. But I feel like if you ventured down the Stephen King path at least once, that that's a deep, wide path you can keep going down.
Definitely.
So this was kind of set on trying to give you other options outside of that. And
Absolutely. She's a great avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the top of the list almost. Yeah. Okay, well, my other pick is called Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. And this is actually, it's a collection of short stories, and they are very short, but it's a graphic novel. So she both drew it and wrote the stories. It's categorized as YA, actually.
Oh.
And I assume that is partially because she is a master at leaving things unsaid. That just, you're left with just this very unsettled feeling when you get done with the story.
Yeah.
And I think, I was thinking a lot about this, going back and forth. And I do think that the stories would stand on their own and still be unsettling. And I can picture you being able to dive into them and get a lot of depth out of them. But the pictures in this book are so haunting, and they're beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Like, the way that she pulled some of those details out and how she illustrated it on the page is crazy. And the way that they put the book together is like, you'll read part of the short story, it'll be in the pictures, and then there'll be a couple pages of just pictures where you're kind of putting the story together, what's happening, and then it goes back to a narrative and more pictures, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like, I found myself going back to the pages of pictures and being like, is that what I think happened?
Ooh.
So it's what I think it plays on so well, and I think is an important piece of horror, is that ability for your mind to be scarier than you want it to be.
Yes.
Like, holy buckets, is that what happened? And you're kind of left going, I guess that is what it is. So
that's a great point. Like, the ability for your mind to go places that maybe the author intended, maybe not.
Right.
And we can scare ourselves pretty damn silly.
Yeah. And I feel like this book just opens that up so much. So if you do have to go to the YA section to find it, or you see it listed that way, don't let that scare you off or think that it's juvenile necessarily. I didn't get that feeling at all. I think, in fact, when I saw that it was categorized that way, it was after I read it. And I thought, oh, that's odd. But
that's interesting how they categorize.
Yeah. And I don't know if they just thought that market, graphic novels, it seems like really got a big takeoff in that particular market. So I don't know if that was a part of it, but it's a quick read. It's a weird read. The main theme happens on the first page where it says, "It came from the woods. Most strange things do." Oh. And like every story has the woods as an element.
Yes.
So yeah, very interesting. I read it and then I read it again just to look at the pictures in context of the stories, because you're kind of trying to have your mind catch up, and you can do that. It's that quick. I mean, you can almost honestly read it without the text, probably the second time, just to see if you're kind of matching up. And it really goes well with your first pick of Bunny, because to me it really harkens to that fairy tale, that Grimm's fairy tale side of horror.
The
like,
dark
oh,
side.
This seems great, and then it's not great. Things that we kind of have an idea like, oh, it should go this way, but it just goes so wrong. And it's not, like I said, it's not. There's blood in it, but it's not bloody or gory. It's just unsettling. Like, it just sticks with you. You're like, ugh.
I think that's a key word when we're talking about this genre. Yeah, is that unsettling feeling, that feeling of dread, that just the feeling of, I can't quite shake this.
And there's almost like a, it was funny when I was reading this book, and normally we don't necessarily bring these types of picks, but I could almost picture myself back in like a college dissecting this and talking about the symbolism of it. And I think a big part of it for me is that there isn't anything outwardly magical in terms of like, you have to think, oh, there's this beast that was created that came. It's like you could think that everything's a symbolism for some feeling we already have, jealousy, rage. So in a way, that's more unsettling, because it's like she was giving almost the woods being like this place in yourself that
the
these
place
strange,
of the unknown and the beasts and all that.
Come forth. So when you think of it, it kind of gives me the chills.
It's no wonder, too, that, you were talking about the original Grimm's fairy tales, which, if our listeners haven't been exposed to those, they're dark as hell.
So dark.
Very bloody, very gory. But they feature woods primarily. Like, that's a huge theme all throughout. And
I think it would be easy to look at this book and dismiss it, or read it and be like, wasn't that scary. But I think if you are really taking it in and savoring it, it's going to feel like those things crawled into your brain. Yeah. Because it's going to sit there and you're going to think about it. And you're going to think about the pictures and you're going to go, it's terrifying.
I'm so glad that we're gifting our readers or our listeners, these unsettling
horrible
images
experiences
that will haunt you for life.
Forever.
That sounds like the Shining twins. Forever and ever. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I kind of want to read it, and I kind of don't. I'll be honest.
Yeah. It's something.
Okay.
Also, the only colors used are black, white, and red in the pictures.
Does anyone eat their own arm?
It's implied.
Okay, that's implied.
It's implied.
That must be a main motif of some key horrors.
Yeah. I think it's implied a few places. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, you do what you got to do if you're a ghoul.
You do. That should be our tagline for all of these. You do what you got to do when you're a ghoul.
When you're a ghoul.
Yeah.
You know what?
Ghoul's life.
When in ghouldom, dude.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think, so what do you think? So far, our picks they're all over the place. We've got some imagery. We've got some fairy tale-esque. We've got some like modern dread. We've got all of it. For my pop culture pick, I went a little campy with horror.
All right.
And I chose True Blood from 2008 to 2014, the show on HBO.
Okay.
If you did not watch True Blood, shame on you. Also, here's the story. Suki Stackhouse is played by Anna Paquin. She's a waitress in a small southern town, and she can hear what people are thinking. And this is an alternate reality where vampires have come out of the coffin, revealed themselves to the world, because there's this synthetic blood that has been marketed called True Blood that vampires can drink so they don't have to eat people anymore.
Perfect.
Wonderful. So there's one contingent of vampires that are all for, yay, let's get out in the world, let's be legal. Then there's another contingent that's like, hell no, we want to keep eating people and doing all of the things that we're doing.
Okay.
So, political climate. Sookie meets Bill, this vampire who is drinking True Blood, trying to be legit. He became a vampire in the Civil War, so he has real Civil War memories for all the reenactors in town, which is great. A great resource.
Good
You know?
job.
Yeah. She falls hard for Bill, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, I can't see anything going on.
No. So in this town, Bontemps, Louisiana, there's a whole cast of crazy characters that are getting involved in vampire life in various ways through the show. There's also a number of vampires which are entertaining as all hell, including Eric Northman, who is a 1,000-year-old Viking vampire. And that introduced us to Alexander Skarsgård. The world has never been the same since.
No.
He's Eric, forever and ever, in my mind. Anyway, so...
She was having a moment there.
I was having a moment.
She was enjoying
having a moment.
her Eric
Yep.
memory. Yeah.
Sure was.
Yeah.
So in this story, we have vampires, we have werewolves, we have fairy monsters, witches, shapeshifters. It's gory.
Yes, a shapeshifter. Finally.
And this one is gory as all hell. Like, it is so ridiculously bloody, though. It's almost comic in its bloodiness. And vampires are killing humans. Humans are killing vampires. Humans are drinking vampires' blood to get high.
Yeah.
Ridiculous and amazing and wonderful. It's sexy as hell, too. There's this lethal mix of, like, blood and sex and humor and real emotion. It's got everything, you guys.
Wow.
And Alexander Skarsgård.
Topping. Just a cherry on top of that bloody Sunday.
So, like I said, kind of campy, and that, like, it's taking the horror genre and the real concept of vampires and werewolves and everything, and sort of, you know, creating this world where, yeah, they're all real. So let's see what happens. Let's see how everyone, you know, gets crazy with this concept.
I like it.
It is wonderful, delightful. Kind of goes off the rails after a while, but those first few seasons, it goes hard.
Like in a jump the shark way?
A little bit.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
It's great, though.
Yeah. Stick
Get
with
it. Get some campy, gory blood.
You
Some
had me at
sexy,
Civil War
sexy-
reenactment.
Yeah. Sexy vampires. Getting it on with humans.
Nothing's so sexy vampire like Vikings and Civil War.
That's right. Oh boy. Okay, so
like
that's where I went.
I like
what
it.
did you do?
Okay, so to be fair, I'm a ginormous wuss. Like I startle easy. I can't do a lot of straight out horror movies.
Right.
I can do psychological thrillers,
Sure.
that type of thing. But I racked my brain. I thought of things recently, and the avenue I went is I just picked one of the most horrifying true crime documentaries.
Oh boy.
That I've watched in recent memory.
Okay.
Not to say that this is the most horrifying, but it's up there.
Okay.
It's in my top 5.
Oh boy. Okay.
And it's a lesser known one, so that's kind of why I picked it, because I think, you know, this could appeal to a lot of people. And it stayed with both Mike and I in a very, very weird way. Like, we're still both sometimes going, ew, remember? And you kind of get a shudder.
Oh boy.
So it's called The Disappearance of Susan Cox Powell. And there have been datelines and other things about this, but this one that I'm talking about, it's a 2-episode. They're both like around an hour and a half, so probably like 3 hours total. It was put out by Oxygen, the network Oxygen, but you can get it on like Amazon Play, Google Play, or Amazon Prime, Google Play, those. So you can get it other places. But the story is about this young mom who is married and essentially disappeared. They have never found her body. She had 2 young sons. And as this goes out, as a lot of times these disappearances do, husband's terribly distraught, doesn't know. And then all these details about their life start to tumble out. All these details about his life start to tumble out, about his parents, particularly his dad. And each new revelation is a gut punch that you just can't quite recover from, because I feel like it's horrifying because when you think about it, you just think of her and how stuck she must have felt with the reality of what was really going on and how to get around that. And then it's as much about the disappearance and what led up to it as it is what happened after. And watching her husband and her father-in-law basically self-implode after it is almost as horrifying. It ends in the most horrific way. I won't give it away, but it is chilling. It is haunting. It's horrifying. It's worse than a horror movie. You could not possibly come up with it. It's 100 kinds of wrong on every level. Like, it's wow. So it was just released in May of 2019. I still haven't recovered. I mean, it's worse than a scary movie because you know it actually happened. So it is so twisted and weird. Yeah. And my heart is broken for her family living through that. It's creepy. You will be very creeped out.
It's interesting that you went true crime too, because I was thinking about that a lot, about stories that are true, because do you think that, I mean, sometimes the truth is way more effed up than any sort of fictional reality.
I think so. Yeah.
If you had seen this in a movie, would you have been as impacted?
I don't know, because I'm guessing if you advertised it, I might have been interested because it seems psychological, thrillery.
Yeah.
But I think that the actual events, in a movie, I think I would have been like, that's over the top.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't see, obviously it's a documentary, so you're not seeing blood and those types of things.
Sure,
but just
knowing that it happened.
The things that happen from her all the way through the rest of the family is it is. The people, the interviews, I mean, you're just kind of dumbfounded when it gets done. You just don't even know. I mean, I don't think Mike and I said anything for like 10 minutes. We just sat on the couch and we were just like, and then I remember turning to him and saying, that's how, what? And he's like, yeah. And then we just both didn't say anything for like 24 hours.
What do you think it says about us as like humans that we love these kinds of stories that, like, you know, both the fictional and the true crime? Like, what is it about us that is so drawn to the dark side of humanity, do you think?
Well, it's an acceptable way to get that part of yourself out there.
That's a good point.
I mean, I think we all, and you don't want to admit it, that's fine, but I think we all have dark thoughts, or we all have a dark side. And not that I'm saying that everyone's like a secret serial killer. I'm just saying that we all have moments of rage and anger and that. And I think it's an acceptable way to kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like kind of that, oh my gosh, that's terrible when that goes down like that. It's an interesting thing to watch, I guess. It's kind of the train wreck theory, you know, like you shouldn't be watching, but you can't look away.
Yeah.
And I also think often it kind of informs, if you follow true crime, I often think that it informs some of our social beliefs, where we start to understand through criminal activity things that maybe we're doing wrong in society. Like maybe we're pushing certain groups of people as outcasts. Maybe we're labeling people and that's allowing crimes to happen because we're not willing to stand up and take a stance and say, no, you know, that's not what we stand for. So I think sometimes that's it too. We're informed, or we learn a lot through that process. It informs our own beliefs. It informs things in the world around us about what we think should happen and shouldn't happen. It helps give us context of things that we think are wrong. And I think that's true as you get older as an adult. I think you get more of that. But I think, it's just, you're drawn to it because you can connect to it, but you also want to learn from it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I could see some of that being, like I said, not necessarily wish fulfillment, but kind of seeing what happens. If the idea in your head were to play out, maybe this is how it would go. And that could be interesting, or it could be real terrifying and dissuade you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think like the straight across horror genre tends to be more maybe of the imaginative and really getting to like take an idea and go all the way with it, you know, not stopping. I think that's a very specific type of imagination in person. You know, Stephen King's a great example. Karen Russell, you know, the other authors that we've talked about, that's a very unique type of imagination that can weave that way. And put it on the page enough that we understand the world that they're
Yes.
creating and can also be scared by it because
And to make it universal enough that so many people do feel like a kinship to it.
Yeah, that's very talented writing. I mean, this genre is actually an incredibly difficult one, in my opinion, to do well.
Isn't that interesting too? That it's sort of sidelined as like,
Yes.
a genre that like, oh, you're into horror, that kind of thing. Which like you said, it takes probably much more work to make a real compelling story that speaks to people in a scary way.
Especially in things that aren't universal. I mean, most of us don't have people that are eating their own arms in front of them.
True.
So to make a world that you're in when you're reading that makes that seem normal enough, that's a feat in and of itself. You know, that's a jump that a lot of other writers and other genres don't have to make. They don't have to get you there because they're operating in the world you already live in. And horror, oftentimes, they're having to create a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And kind of twist your mind or how you think about it. So
sometimes too, it's almost bringing out pieces of our history that we may have overlooked too.
Yes.
Like you think of how many stories can involve, even as a very tiny subplot, cannibalism or something, where this has happened in the past to enormous people. So it's almost like playing out what that would look like in a real world scenario.
Yes.
Yeah. Creepy as hell.
It is.
I don't want
frightening.
to. I don't want to eat humans. I'm just gonna.
Okay,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
come. I'm gonna come out against that, saying.
Feels like a huge red flag. I don't know why you felt the need to say that while looking at my arm, but whatever. That's fine.
Just wanted to clarify and
Okay.
put it out there
All right.
publicly. I'm not down for cannibalism.
I mean, just everyone, I love you, and it's been real, and I'm really glad we got this time
but
together.
I mean, if we were trapped together, I would save you for last. If we had to,
Oh, okay. Here it is. The order that we're going to eat each other. It had to get there. That's
Yep,
fine.
yep.
All right. What is
Yeah.
this, episode 22? Okay. Fine. I get eaten last.
that's a good thing. That
Right.
shows like
Who
I'm
are we
saving
eating
you.
first? It's you and I. So how is this working?
We'll find some other people, some randoms, and I'll eat the randoms
Okay,
first.
okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
This is all a lie. Podcast's going to kill us both.
That's a good point. Podcast's going to eat us before we have to eat ourselves.
Yeah. She's not going to let that happen.
No, she's not.
No.
The minute we even look
She'll be annoyed. She'll be like, "Look, you two can't decide. You're both dead, and I'm the one getting off this horrible island, wherever we are, that we have to eat each other."
Somehow she's going to poison us so we look just barely unconscious, and then she's going to go to town.
Okay.
Just eat us up.
I like it.
Yeah.
But in your version, we're going to hunt other people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about the hunting part.
Okay.
Like, we're going to hunt the people.
Okay, you're going to hunt the
And
people.
then, yeah.
We should go well with the two of us, because we're both very equipped
For sure.
any kind of hunting.
Yes.
Much less people.
Yep.
And then...
Our version of hunting will just be like, hey, like drawing them in. Like
Oh,
baits,
okay.
like, oh, we're safe. We're normal people.
Look at our
Come
dance
on.
routine. Come to our deserted island. We're not going to eat you.
oh,
I mean, we are.
It's a very elaborate ruse that will
Yeah.
bring them in.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I feel like we'll be really good at disguising that it's human, too. Because
Oh,
we
yeah.
wouldn't be able to just eat it. We would both feel weird about that.
For sure. So we would dress it up. We would have some presentation to it.
kind of
Put a garnish.
smoothie.
Yes.
Thinking, we're on an island. We might have access to coconuts, which maybe we should be.
Perfect.
Of course, that would be a food source, so I'm not sure why we're eating humans.
Because we can only eat so many coconuts.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go nuts. I need a human.
And apparently we also have blenders to make the smoothies, the coconuts.
Well,
and
or
the-
you could, I'm picturing like we get a big rock and we're grinding. This is horrific. We have just created a horror movie. That's what we did. This went so bad.
Well, this time around we didn't go business idea, but we stuck to theme. I mean, that's a horror story. That's a scary story to tell in the
I feel
dark.
like we could play that out.
We
I
could.
mean,
We're not telling it in the dark. It's broad daylight, and we're talking about it on air. But that's how we roll.
I think if we took it another step and
Yeah.
we were like eating the brains of
Yes.
the people that we caught, and then we take on characteristics of them, and that freaks each other out on the island. Like things that are so far from what they are. Like you become like a huge Midwestern hunter carnivore, and I'm like, whoa, where's
who is
Amy?
that?
Yeah, what? What are you talking about?
Where's my vegan loving lady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are humans vegan?
That's a great ethical question. I'm going to say yes in this scenario. I mean, when it comes comes down to it, if there's a story where a human is getting hurt or an animal, I'm going to let the human get hurt.
Okay.
And I'm going to protect the animal.
That's a great ethical question. It's maybe my favorite thing you've ever said. It's a great ethical question. We don't have time to get into, but I'll get back to you on that. I suppose it would depend on what the human ate.
Oh, good point.
Kind of like if you put eggs in the cookies, they're not vegan.
Oh,
if you put
God.
eggs in the human.
Crap. Well, at that point, we may not be picky enough. So,
I think you're going to have to let it go.
I'm going to have to let it go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well.
I'll just eat everything except the stomach, so it's fine. I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of the face you just made. That whatever I said made you look the most horrified you've ever looked. I think
Having an out-of-body moment where I'm sitting across from you and you literally said I eat everything but the stomach. Like, I'm eating a human, but where I'm going to draw the line is eating any animal products.
that's right.
Okay.
I stand by that.
I like it.
Oh,
Oh, you're good at
man.
sticking to it.
You know, I think that after this episode and after I've revealed some things about me,
Yeah.
it'll be a toss-up on if we continue this podcast.
I mean, I might want a third party here from now on. Scary. What's horrifying is I thought it was podcast this whole time that was trying to kill me.
Nope. Podcast just my familiar doing my bidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm assuming that people enjoyed this as much as we did. And they'll be happy to know we will be back next Wednesday. Provided Amy doesn't get at me before that.
And if you have an escort, bodyguard.
Right. Yes. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
for all of our picks today,
Yes.
including the author I can't totally pronounce your name, you better head to
Yeah.
broadsandbooks.com and
Better
get
do
that
it.
info.
Yeah. Also at broadsandbooks.com, we have some bonus material. We have learned a lot about each other in this bonus material, but yet there's still more to learn, as this past 10
Every
minutes
time.
have shown.
Every time.
But go to the bonus material. You'll hear how, lots of stories about us. We take quizzes.
Yes.
We give a guide to road trips
So
with a
good.
playlist. We give gift guides. God, there's so much.
So much.
Yeah.
We just keep giving. We also, if you enjoy this,
Yeah.
besides the human sacrifice part, if you want to give us
Or
a
if you
review,
like the
or
human
if you like
sac-
it,
yeah.
maybe that's a new thing you really
Yeah,
enjoyed.
yeah.
Let us know.
Yep.
Write that review.
Yeah. I'm curious if we do get any reviews after this episode, how that will skew our results in the search.
Positively. Yeah.
Definitely.
Positive thoughts,
For
I think.
sure.
That's where we have to go. Because you're terrifying, so they're scared now to do anything but 5 stars.
See, all of you listeners that have been listening for a while, you thought Erin was the scary one. Nope.
No.
Aaron is-
All I was going to do was break legs. Okay? You still had your body. And legs heal, provided I do it correctly. In this scenario, you have nothing but your stomach. You are your stomach at this point, okay?
Yep.
That's
Yep,
what she's
that's how
leaving
it- yep.
behind is
Everything
your stomach.
except that stomach.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Unless, of course, she knows you're a vegan, then she's going to eat your stomach, too.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Vegans, all the bets are off. Yeah.
yeah.
So, this was a theme idea given to us by a listener.
Yes.
Maggie.
Thank
you,
you.
Maggie.
So
we
nice of
loved
you.
it. Sorry, we kind of went off on a tangent there. You learned more about us as a result.
Yeah.
So, here you go. It was a gift to you.
It was.
And guess what? You, all of you other listeners, you can do this same thing.
You can.
We can dedicate an episode directly to you.
And we can go off the rails for you.
We sure can. Give us a fully fledged theme idea. Give us a genre idea. Give us a specific pick. Whatever you want to do. Send it our way.
We'll make it happen. And you can do that through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our website. We are not hard to find.
No, we are not hiding, even though we talk about a lot of things we
Hiding
probably
in
should
plain
hide.
sight.
But
Yeah, no.
no, we're out there.
We are.
Yeah. In the meantime, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream.
before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.